Hello and welcome to our video for Sabbath, January the 2nd, 2021, which is actually being recorded on Sunday, January the 3rd. I want to start out and end today's video by wishing everyone a Happy New Year. The title of today's video, What's Love Got to Do with It? There's a song with that line in it, that question, and then it asked the following question, what's love but a second-hand emotion? Well, if I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, if I am a follower of Jesus, I shouldn't need to hesitate at all in answering that question. I should be able to immediately respond, love has everything to do with everything. Love can make all the difference in life, in happiness, in peace, in my state of contentedness and harmony. There's another popular song that expresses this sentiment. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. So for something that is so important, so needed and beneficial in life, we need only look around us a little bit to confirm that love nevertheless continues to be in rather short supply in today's world, just as it has been throughout the centuries. But when love is at work in the world is a far better place. When love is missing, we have our problems, don't we? Now, as we're discussing the subject of love in this video, please know that it's not strictly the emotion of love we're exploring. It's not romantic love that we're talking about. It's certainly not eros or erotic love that we're talking about. No, the love that we're talking about today is the kind of love Jesus was talking about the day he told his apostles, a new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another. That's in John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35. Or when Jesus said, my command is this, love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. John 15, verses 12 and 13. One of Jesus' apostles, John, would later write, God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in him. In this way, love is made complete among us, so that we will have confidence on the day of judgment, because in this world we are like him. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. We love because he first loved us. If anyone says, I love God, yet hates his brother, he is a liar. For anyone who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God, whom he has not seen. And he has given us this command, whoever loves God must also love his brother. That's from 1 John chapter 4, verses 16 through 21. Whenever we see the kind of love Jesus was teaching about on display in the world, good things result. And whenever that love is missing, well, you know. This past week I came across a couple of articles in my newspaper that really grabbed hold of me and that I'm going to share with you today for whatever it's worth, and I hope it's worth something. One of the articles, written by Dan Levin of the New York Times News Service, was entitled, A Racial Slur, a Viral Video, and a Reckoning. The other article, by Brad Schmidt of USA Today Network, Tennessee, was entitled, "What Do You Give Your Buddy Battling Diabetes?" A Christmas kidney, of course. Please bear with me because I'm going to read both articles in their entirety and then talk about each one in turn. First, a racial slur, a viral video, and a reckoning by Dan Levin. At the top of this article were dual photographs of each of the principals that the article's about, Mimi Groves and Jimmy Galligan. Each is sitting on their respective front porches of their homes. The caption reads, "Mimi Groves seen at her parents' home in Leesburg, Virginia on October 27th, withdrew from the University of Tennessee after a publicly released 3-second video caused an uproar online. The classmate who shared it, Jimmy Galligan, seen at Wright at his parents' home in Ashburn, Virginia on October 30th, has no regrets." Here's the article. Leesburg, Virginia. Jimmy Galligan was in history class last school year when his phone buzzed with a message. Once he clicked on it, he found a 3-second video of a white classmate looking into the camera and uttering an anti-black racial slur. The slur, he said, was regularly hurled in classrooms and hallways throughout his years in the Loudoun County School District. He had brought the issue up to teachers and administrators, but much to his anger and frustration, his complaints had gone nowhere. So he held on to the video, which was sent to him by a friend, and made a decision that would ricochet across Leesburg, Virginia, a town named for an ancestor of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, and whose school system had fought in order to desegregate for more than a decade after the Supreme Court's landmark ruling. Quote, "I wanted to get her where she would understand the severity of that word," Galligan, 18, whose mother is black and father is white, said of the classmate who uttered the slur, Mimi Groves. He tucked the video away, deciding to post it publicly when the time was right. Groves had originally sent the video in which she looked into the camera and said, "I can drive," followed by the slur, to a friend on Snapchat in 2016 when she was a freshman and had just gotten her learner's permit. It later circulated among some students at Heritage High School, which she and Galligan attended, but did not cause much of a stir. Galligan had not seen the video before receiving it last school year, when he and Groves were seniors. By then, she was a varsity cheer captain who dreamed of attending the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, whose cheer team was the reigning national champion. When she made the team in May, her parents celebrated with a cake and orange balloons, the university's official color. The next month, as protests were sweeping the nation after the police killing of George Floyd, Groves, in a public Instagram post, urged people to, quote, "protest, donate, sign a petition, rally, do something," unquote, in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. "You have the audacity to post this after saying the N-word?" responded someone who Groves says she did not know. Her alarm at the stranger's comment turned to panic as friends began calling, directing her to the source of a brewing social media furor. Galligan, who had waited until Groves had chosen a college, had publicly posted the video that afternoon. Within hours, it had been shared to Snapchat, TikTok, and Twitter, where furious calls mounted for the University of Tennessee to revoke its admissions offer. The consequences were swift. Over the next 2 days, Groves was removed from the university's cheer team. She then withdrew from the school under pressure from admissions officials, who told her they had received hundreds of emails and phone calls from outraged alumni, students, and the public. Quote, "They're angry and they want to see some action," an admissions official told Groves and her family, according to a recording of the emotional call reviewed by the New York Times. Groves was among many incoming freshmen across the country whose admissions offers were revoked by at least a dozen universities after videos emerged on social media of them using racist language. Hostile environment. Leesburg, the county seat of Loudoun County, lies just across the Potomac River from Maryland, about an hour's drive from Washington. The Loudoun County suburbs are among the wealthiest in the nation, and the schools consistently rank among the top in the state. Last fall, according to the Virginia Department of Education, the student body at Heritage High was about half white, 20% Hispanic, 14% Asian American, and 8% black, with another 6% of mixed race. In interviews, current and former students of color described an environment rife with racial insensitivity, including casual use of slurs. A report commissioned last year by the school district documented a pattern of school leaders ignoring the widespread use of racial slurs by students and teachers, fostering a, quote, growing sense of despair, unquote, among students of color, some of whom faced disproportionate disciplinary measures compared with white students. In the wake of the report's publication, the district in August released a plan to combat systematic racism. The move was followed by a formal apology in September for the district's history of segregation. Relentless backlash. Groves said the video began as a private Snapchat message to a friend. At the time, quoting her, "At the time, I didn't understand the severity of the word or the history and context behind it because I was so young," she said in a recent interview, adding that the slur was in, quote, all the songs we listened to, and I'm not using that as an excuse, unquote. Groves, who just turned 19, lives with her parents and two siblings in River Creek, a predominantly white and affluent gated community built around a golf course. On a recent day, she sat outside on the deck with her mother, Marcia Groves, who described how the entire family had struggled with the consequences of the very public shaming. Once the video went viral, the backlash was swift and relentless. A photograph of Groves, captioned with a racial slur, also began circulating online, but she and her parents say someone else wrote it to further tarnish her reputation. On social media, people tagged the University of Tennessee and its cheer team, demanding her admission be rescinded. Some threatened her with physical violence if she came to the university campus. Groves' parents, who said their daughter was being targeted by a social media mob for a mistake she made as an adolescent, urged university officials to assess her character by speaking with her high school and her cheer coaches. Instead, admissions officials gave her an ultimatum: withdraw or the university would rescind her offer of admission. We just needed it to stop, so we withdrew her, said her mother, adding that the entire experience had, quote, vaporized 12 years of her daughter's hard work. They rushed to judgment, and unfortunately, it's going to affect her for the rest of her life, quoting her mother. Lessons learned. In the months since Galligan posted the video, he has begun his freshman year at Vanguard University in California, and Groves has enrolled in online classes at a nearby community college. Although they had been friendly earlier in high school, they have not spoken about the video or the fallout. At home, Groves' bedroom is festooned by a collection of cheer trophies, medals, and a set of red pom-poms, reminders of what could have been. Her despair has given way to resignation. Quote, I've learned how quickly social media can take something they know very little about, twist the truth, and potentially ruin somebody's life, she said. Since the racial reckoning of the summer, many white teenagers, when posting dance videos to social media, no longer sing along with the slur in rap songs. Instead, they raise a finger to pursed lips. Small things like that really do make a difference, Galligan said. This article, when I first read it, troubled me a great deal. You have these two young people, still in their teens, one white and one who is of mixed race, both of whom, in my opinion, made mistakes. First, there's young Mimi Groves, who seems to be saying that she lacked a full understanding of the origin and meaning, and therefore presumably the negative connotation of the N-word for people of color. I don't know that I buy that. She should have known how insensitive it is for a white person to utter what is uniformly known throughout America to be a racial slur. Did she not have any idea? If not, then I think she should have. At any rate, that 3-second video to a friend after she got her learner's permit was costing her now. I can drive, bleep. She could have, should have said something else, anything else. And I have no doubt she wishes now she had. I can drive, buddy. Or maybe, check this out, I can drive. Or how about, I can drive, everybody. But she didn't say any of those things. She said, I can drive, bleep. Young Miss Groves also correctly notes the presence of that exact same slur in many rap songs in today's culture. Songs that thousands upon thousands of American youth unfortunately listen to and memorize and sing along to. Oddly, but not surprisingly, in our culture of free speech, rap artists don't seem to be held to the same standard or held accountable at all for routinely putting the N-word out there in their music. Why is that? Is it permissible, say, for a black rap artist to use a slur like the N-word? Or for any person of color to use that slur, to claim ownership of it, and therefore immunity from the consequences of using it? The backlash of social media can be very powerful and very destructive. It can weaken the resolve of administrators and public officials, such as those at the University of Tennessee, to stand up for someone who, yes, made a mistake, and to weather the storm for them. You can urge people to get involved in social justice movements like Black Lives Matter, as young Mimi Groves had more recently done, and it not matter at all. Who is the real Mimi? people may wonder. Maybe it was just bad timing, or perhaps in the mind of young Jimmy Galligan, the right timing, coming during the summer when racial tensions were boiling over in cities across our nation. Then also, you may ask, where was the resolve of the administrators of the Loudoun County School District in Leesburg, Virginia, once a hotbed of the old Confederacy, to take steps to eliminate such casual use of racial slurs by students in their schools? Jimmy Galligan had had enough of it. He had had enough of his complaints to school teachers and administrators going unaddressed and therefore unresolved, seemingly ignored. So young Jimmy made his mistake, for which he says he has no regrets. In his mind, his action was justified. He acted vindictively against young Mimi Groves, figuring he'd teach her a lesson she'd likely never forget. And it looks like he did. You may be wondering what in the world this newspaper article has to do with love. Well, my answer to you is that it has a lot to do with love, because it strongly calls our attention to the dire need for more love and understanding along many fronts or divides, both in our own nation and in the world at large. If we have true love in our hearts, the kind that Jesus taught us about, then maybe we'd say things differently. Not say offensive and hurtful things to or about one another. There really is no innocent, harmless venue for such offensive or hurtful language. And maybe we'd treat other folks the way we'd like to be treated by them if the situation were reversed, instead of trying to pay them back 100-fold for their mistake. That brings us to the second article. What do you give your buddy battling diabetes? A Christmas Kidney, of course, by Brad Schmidt, which goes like this. They met 9 years ago when both were servers at a Waffle House in Franklin, Tennessee, south of Nashville. Charming and funny, Dave Steele made way more tips than his buddy Michael Agostino. In fact, Agostino quickly conceded when regulars walked in and looked back and forth between the two servers. Just go on to Dave's section, Agostino would say, disheartened. We know you're going to go there anyway. After their shifts, the two often got a late night bite to eat together, sometimes walking around the 24-hour Walmart to wind down and joke around. Eventually, the two, looking to save money, started going to Agostino's parents' house after work to eat Italian leftovers. Often, one or both of the parents would be awake and would join the guys. Steele was kind of nervous at first, and his friend's dad noticed. Dave, Agostino's dad, Bruni Agostino, said, "You're here? You're family. Mangia, eat." The nervousness just melted away, Steele said. Then I was like, all right, we're family now. Agostino often drove his buddy around because Steele, diagnosed with diabetes at 17, thought his occasional sugar crashes might make it unsafe for him to get behind the wheel. The two spent more and more time together, and soon Steele started hanging out with Agostino's siblings and parents, even when Michael Agostino wasn't around. "He's more than just my friend," Agostino said. "He's my brother." Agostino took Steele to doctor's appointments and visited him in the hospital after amputation surgeries, where Steele lost a toe, then part of his foot, and then his leg below the knee. In 2017, Agostino went to Lincoln Memorial University in southern Kentucky to start graduate school and eventually medical school. Just a year after that, Steele got put on a transplant list after being diagnosed with chronic kidney disease, a result of the diabetes. I had the worst stomach pains, issues going to the bathroom, and some days I wouldn't want to move, Steele said. I'm pretty upbeat, but sometimes I'd be in the fetal position on the couch. Agostino knew the list was long to get a transplant from a deceased donor. After doing some research, he found out that living donors have quick recovery time and only a few minor long-term effects after surgery. The decision was easy. A couple of years ago, I had a brother pass in a car crash. This is from Agostino. And there was nothing anybody could have done to stop that, Agostino said. But this is a scenario where I can do something to help to keep my brother with me. And so there's no way that I could not even consider it. It took Agostino's father a few days to get on board. When he first told us about this, I was scared. I didn't know much about it, Bruni Agostino said. We raised them to be good members of the community, but sometimes you think, do you have to go that far? What if something should happen down the road where he needs a kidney? But the dad got emotional when he said how proud he is of his son donating an organ to his best friend. Quote, this probably is the pinnacle of the giving back that we've raised him to do, Bruni Agostino said. It really is wonderful. Agostino and Steele will both go into surgery December the 29th at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. As we know, that was just a few days ago, right? Agostino is expected to be released within a day. Steele, a day or two after that. Once both are healed and able to get back out, Steele hopes to take Agostino to Agostino's first pro wrestling match. Steele also has plans to get married to his fiancée, Charla Rubel. And yes, Steele said he'd return the favor if Agostino ever needs a hand or any other body part. Hey, you need a kidney, a leg, a finger, eyeball, anything, Steele said to him during a joint interview. I would not hesitate. At the top of this article in the paper was a picture of Agostino and Steele standing together near the foot of a staircase. Agostino has on a white coat with a stethoscope hanging around his neck. The caption reads as follows: Michael Agostino left and David Steele, best buddies and pro wrestling fans, pose for a portrait with a WWE Championship belt outside of Steele's apartment in Columbia, Tennessee on December 18th. What the picture reveals, but neither the caption nor the article mentions, is that Agostino is white and Steele is black. So I'll leave you with that thought today. When the song asked, what's love got to do with it? I can answer with supreme confidence that love has everything to do with whatever issue you're facing in life. Love has everything to do with everything. One day, a couple of thousand years ago, Jesus said something that I wish all the world would take to heart. I like the account of the dialogue of the occasion that Mark gives in his gospel, found in Mark chapter 12, verses 28 through 34, where he writes, One of the teachers of the law came and heard them debating. Noticing that Jesus had given a good answer, he asked him, "Of all the commandments, which is the most important?" "The most important one," answered Jesus, "is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these." "Well said, teacher," the man replied. "You are right in saying that God is one, and there is no other but him. To love him with all your heart, with all your understanding, and with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices." When Jesus saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." Later on, the Apostle Paul wrote a beautiful description of the power of love in one of his letters to the early Christians. Today, we familiarly have dubbed it the love chapter, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. "Love is patient," Paul writes. "Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails." Paul goes on to conclude the chapter by saying, "And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love." You know, these newspaper articles that I've been reading this morning, in each case, give us only a portion of the whole story of the individuals involved. Yet each article illuminates in its own way the great importance of love, the immeasurable value of love, and the great hole that exists in life without it. We all yearn for that kind of love, whether we know it or not. I hope each of us will do our part to incorporate that love, the love that Jesus taught about, into every aspect of our personality as we move into another year together. Yes, Happy New Year. God has given us another year to illustrate to the world around us the importance of love. If that can be our endeavor this year and every year, I know that God will give us success. Until we meet again, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Love you and hope to see you again soon.